Have you ever noticed how hospitals feel different at night? Fluorescent lights appear harsher and cast very long shadows in empty corridors. Sounds echo differently in the dark. The hum of machines becomes almost threatening. The periodic beeps of monitors sound alarming even when everything is stable. And automatic doors open and close even when no one is there, as if the building were breathing. I've been working the night shift in the emergency room at Riverside Memorial for 6 years, and I thought I was used to all of this. I thought I understood every creak, every tremor, every unexplained sound that unsettles patients and keeps new nurses on edge. I was wrong. But what happened during my shift on November 14th didn't just change how I felt about this hospital. It changed everything I thought I knew about the boundaries between patient and caregiver, between help and harm, between the living and those who refuse to leave. And it all started with something as deceptively simple as a light that shouldn't have been on. My shift began the way it always did. I clocked in at 10:47 p.m., 3 minutes early like I have every shift for the past 6 years. Routine is everything in emergency medicine. It's the foundation that keeps you grounded when a trauma rolls through the doors or a patient codes in the hallway. I did my usual walkthrough, checking supply levels in the medication room, reviewing the patient board to see who was waiting and what complaints had come through the doors that evening, touching base with the day shift nurse who was finishing up her charting. Her name was Jennifer, a veteran with 20 years under her belt. She looked exhausted, the kind of bone-deep tired that comes from a particularly challenging shift. "Quiet tonight," she told me, and I immediately felt a twinge of superstitious dread. Every ER nurse knows that saying the Q word is like inviting chaos through the front doors, like tempting fate to send you the worst possible cases all at once. Just 2 patients in observation right now, one waiting for lab results on possible appendicitis, the other sleeping off a minor concussion from a fender bender. Third floor isolation wing is completely empty. They're still doing maintenance up there from the water damage last month. Whole floor's been dark for weeks now. The third floor, remember that, because that detail, that seemingly innocuous piece of information about a closed floor undergoing repairs, that's where everything started to unravel. Riverside Memorial is an older hospital, built in the 1970s during that era of institutional architecture that prioritized function over form. Over the decades, it's been expanded and renovated in a patchwork fashion, new wings added here, old sections repurposed there, until the building became a maze of corridors that don't quite line up, staircases that seem to lead nowhere, and rooms that feel like they exist outside the normal flow of the hospital. The third floor had been our isolation and quarantine wing for as long as anyone could remember, used for patients with infectious diseases or those requiring complete separation from the general population for psychiatric or security reasons. It was a floor most staff avoided even when it was operational. Something about the energy up there always felt off, oppressive, like the suffering of past patients had soaked into the walls. After a major pipe burst in October sent water cascading through the ceiling and damaging electrical systems, the entire floor had been closed indefinitely for repairs. No patients, no staff, no activity. Just empty rooms behind locked doors, plastic sheeting covering water-stained walls, and maintenance equipment scattered in hallways that should have been bustling with nurses and doctors. At least, that's what we'd all been told. That's what we all believed. We were wrong about that too. The first few hours of my shift passed in that peculiar rhythm that night nurses know well. Long stretches of quiet, interrupted by sudden bursts of activity. Around midnight, I handled a young man with a suspected broken ankle from a basketball game. At 12:45 a.m., an elderly woman came in with chest pain that turned out to be severe indigestion. Standard cases, routine assessments, nothing that raised any alarms. By 1:30 a.m., both patients in observation were stable. The waiting room was empty except for one family member dozing in a corner chair, and I'd settled in at the nurse's station to work through the mountain of paperwork that always accumulates during a shift. 3rd floor, North Corridor. A light was flickering. I stared at the monitor for 30 seconds, watching that light pulse on and off. The corridor should have been completely dark. There was no power running to that floor except emergency lighting. And what I was seeing wasn't emergency lighting. It was the fluorescent overhead in one of the patient rooms. I picked up the phone and dialed security. 3 rings before Samuel Brooks answered. Security, Brooks speaking. Sam, it's Olivia in the ER. Are you seeing the 3rd floor North Corridor on your monitors? A pause. 3rd floor? That's closed. Should be dark up there. Well, it's not. Room 317? The lights going on and off? Huh. Could be an electrical issue from the water damage. Want me to check it out? Please, and Sam? Be careful. The contractors left equipment everywhere. Always am, Liv. Give me 5 minutes. I watched the monitor as Sam's flashlight beam appeared in the 3rd floor stairwell at 1:41 a.m. I know the exact time because I noted it in my shift log. Details matter. His light swept across the corridor, illuminating plastic sheeting and equipment. I could see his silhouette moving toward room 317. He paused at the door, tried the handle. Then his flashlight beam shifted upward, and the flickering light went out. Brooks to ER station? His voice crackled over the radio. Olivia, you there? I'm here. What's going on? Lights out now, doors locked, but... A pause. There's water on the floor here, fresh water, and the door handle's warm. Warm? Yeah, like someone was just holding it. I'm going to unlock it and check inside. Sam, maybe we should call maintenance first. Just a quick look. I watched as he swiped his master key card. The door opened and he stepped inside. His flashlight beam swept the room. That's when I saw it. Just for a moment. Another shadow in the room, separate from Sam's, moving along the far wall. Sam? Is someone in there with you? Static. Then his voice, confused. What? No, room's empty. But Liv, this is strange. The bed's been moved, and there are medical supplies here. IV bags, syringes, bandages, all arranged on the table like someone was setting up for a procedure. My stomach tightened. Get out of there. Right now. Hold on, I'm checking the bathroom. Sam, I'm serious. Get out and lock the door. But he was already moving. I could see his flashlight shifting as he pushed open the bathroom door. 3 seconds of silence, then, Jesus Christ. What, Sam? What is it? There's someone living up here. Sleeping bag, food wrappers, water bottles. And Liv. His voice dropped. There's a hospital gown on the door. It's got blood on it. Fresh blood. That's when the lights went out. Not just in room 317. The entire 3rd floor went dark on the monitor, including emergency lighting. I could hear Sam's sharp breath over the radio. Power's out up here, he said, his voice tight. Emergency lights, too. That's not normal. I'm calling the police. Get back to the stairwell now. Yeah, Wait. What? Did you hear that? Over the radio, I heard it, too. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps coming from somewhere else on the 3rd floor. Not running, not hurried, just measured steps. Sam, move. Now. His flashlight beam jerked as he turned. I watched the monitor, but the 3rd floor camera was showing nothing but black. All I had was Sam's voice and my own racing heartbeat. I'm heading for the stairs, he whispered. But Liv, there's someone else up here. I can hear them in the corridor. The footsteps on the radio grew louder, closer. They're coming this way. I'm going to see who it is. Don't you dare! Get to the stairwell. But Sam was already moving toward the corridor. I heard his footsteps, heard the door creak. Then his flashlight must have found them, because he spoke, his voice taking on forced calm. Sir, this floor is closed. You can't be up here. Silence. No response. Sir, I'm hospital security. I need you to come with me downstairs. The radio cut to static. Sam! Sam! I was shouting into the handset. Nothing but white noise answered. The third-floor monitor flickered once, twice, then came back online. But the camera angle had shifted, pointing down the corridor at an odd tilt. And in that corridor I could see two figures. One was Sam, his flashlight beam visible. The other was standing perfectly still about 20 feet away, illuminated only by Sam's light. A man. Average height, wearing what looked like hospital scrubs. But there was something wrong with the way he stood. Too rigid, too still. I watched as Sam took a step toward the man. The figure didn't move, didn't respond, just stood there like a statue. Then the lights came back on, fluorescent overheads flickering to life one by one down the corridor. And in that harsh light, I got a clear look at the man standing in front of Sam. His face was familiar, terribly, impossibly familiar, because I'd seen him before. 4 days ago. In the emergency room, patient ID number 47,829. Admitted for severe dehydration and confusion, claiming he couldn't remember his name or how he'd gotten to the hospital. We'd treated him, hydrated him, ran a psychiatric evaluation. He'd seemed lucid after a few hours, gave us a name, Martin Reeves, and an address that checked out. He'd signed himself out AMA against medical advice at 3 a.m. on November 11th. The same man was now standing on a closed hospital floor, surrounded by evidence of having lived there for days, staring at our security guard with eyes that reflected the fluorescent light. Sam, I said into the radio, that's Martin Reeves, patient from last Friday. He's not supposed to be here. The radio crackled. Sam's voice came through, but he was speaking to the man. Mr. Reeves? Martin? I need you to come with me downstairs. This floor isn't safe. Martin moved. Not toward Sam. Not away. He simply turned and walked calmly toward room 317, and as he walked, he reached up and flipped the light switch, plunging that section back into darkness. Sam, don't follow him. Wait for backup. But Sam was already moving. I could see his flashlight beam entering the darkened area, following Martin into room 317. The radio exploded with sound. Not words, just a sharp gasp, then a crash like something heavy falling. The flashlight beam spun wildly. Sam! I was running, leaving the nurse's station, heading for the stairwell. Something was very wrong. Get out! Sam's voice over the radio strained. Liv! He's not right. I'm coming, just hold on. I hit the third-floor stairwell door at a full run. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my badge slapping against my chest, my phone already dialing 911. The third-floor door was heavy. I swiped my badge and yanked it open. The smell hit me first. Not water damage and mildew. Something else. Antiseptic. Medical. Like someone had been running a clinic up here. The corridor lights were on now, creating that harsh hospital brightness. But it looked wrong. The plastic sheeting had been moved, arranged differently. Maintenance equipment was stacked neatly against the walls. "Sam?" I called out. My voice echoed. Room 317's door was open. Light spilled into the hallway. I approached slowly. Sam was sitting on the floor inside the room, his back against the wall, his hand pressed to his neck. Blood seeped between his fingers. Oh my God. I was beside him instantly. "Let me see. Move your hand." He moved his hand. The wound was superficial. A long scratch along his neck, bleeding freely but not dangerously. "What happened? Where's Martin?" Sam's eyes were wide. He was just standing there. I tried to approach him and he moved so fast, grabbed something off the table, some kind of scalpel, and came at me. I tried to grab him and he just slipped away. Then he ran. "Which way?" "South stairwell, I think." "But Liv..." He grabbed my arm. "There's something you need to see." He pointed toward the bathroom. The door was open, and I could see the makeshift living space, the sleeping bag, the collection of food wrappers and water bottles. But there was more. On the bathroom wall, written in what I hoped was red marker, was a message. Discharge date, never. And below it, a list. A long list of dates and times, going back weeks. Each entry had a room number. Room 317, November 10th, 11 p.m. November 11th, 3 a.m. Room 445, October 28th, 10:30 p.m. October 29th, 2:15 a.m. Room 317, October 15th, 9 p.m. October 16th, 4 a.m. The list went on. At least 20 entries. All on the third floor. All during night shifts. Martin Reeves hadn't just been here for 4 days. He'd been coming here for months. At the bottom of the list, in different handwriting, shakier, was a final message. "They know I'm here. They're watching. I can't leave anymore. If anyone finds this, check the security footage. From October 1st, check what happened to patient 4-2156. Sirens wailed in the distance. The police were coming. But I knew Martin Reeves would be gone by the time they arrived. Vanished into the hospital's maze of corridors. Sam was staring at the list. "What does that mean? Patient 42,156? I pulled out my phone and opened our patient database. My hands were shaking as I typed in the number. The file loaded. Patient 42,156. Admitted September 30th. Complaint. Severe paranoia. Claimed someone was following him through the hospital. Psychiatric evaluation ordered. Patient became agitated. Sedation administered. Patient transferred to isolation room on third floor for observation. October 1st, 2:17 a.m. Patient found unresponsive. Resuscitation attempted. Patient pronounced dead at 2:43 a.m. Cause of death: cardiac arrest. Cause unknown. I scrolled to the attending physician's notes. Dr. Patricia Hendricks. Her notes were detailed, describing the patient's erratic behavior, his claims that someone was living in the hospital's closed wings, following patients, watching them. The last line made my blood run cold. Patient claimed to have seen another patient, previously discharged, still wandering the third-floor isolation wing at night. Patient identified this individual as Martin Reeves, discharged AMA on September 15th. Security found no evidence of unauthorized presence on third floor. Patient's claims attributed to psychiatric break. September 15th. That was 2 months ago. Sam, I said slowly, how long has the third floor been closed? Since the pipe burst, October 20th. And before that? We moved all isolation cases down to the second floor in mid-September. Building inspector found electrical issues. Martin Reeves had been coming here since before the floor was officially closed. He'd been hiding in abandoned rooms, watching, waiting. And when patient 42,156 noticed him, the police arrived at 2:23 a.m. I remember checking my watch when I heard the sirens approaching, noting the time in my mental log the way I've been trained to do. 4 patrol cars, their lights painting the hospital entrance in alternating red and blue, officers moving with that particular combination of alertness and routine that comes from years of responding to calls in the middle of the night. I gave my statement to the first officer on scene, then again to his supervisor, then a third time to Detective Chen when she arrived 15 minutes later. I showed them the room, the list on the bathroom wall, the patient file on my phone. They took photos, bagged evidence, called for additional units. The search of the third floor took nearly 2 hours. I could hear them moving through the corridors above us. Boots on linoleum, radios crackling, doors opening and closing. They checked every room, every closet, every space large enough to hide a person. They brought in police dogs that sniffed through hallways and around equipment. They reviewed security camera footage from every angle. Found nothing. No Martin Reeves, no signs of where he might have gone, no indication of which exit he'd used, no witnesses who'd seen him leave. It was as if he'd simply dissolved into the shadows, becoming part of the hospital's architecture, disappearing into the same walls he'd been hiding behind for months. But they did find something else that made the entire situation infinitely more disturbing. In room 319, 2 doors down from where Sam had been attacked, they found another makeshift living space. This one was different from the temporary setup in 317. This one looked more permanent, more established, like someone had been preparing for a long-term stay. A cot that had clearly been borrowed from our supply room, complete with hospital linens, folded with military precision. A small camping stove set up on a wheeled medical cart. Boxes of medical supplies stacked neatly against one wall. Enough bandages, antibiotics, IV fluids, and pain medications to stock a small clinic. Bottles of water arranged in rows. Non-perishable food organized by type and expiration date. And on the wall of that room, another message. I was a patient here once. Now I'm the only permanent resident. They think they can discharge me. They're wrong. This is my home now. Below it, surveillance photos, dozens of them. Staff members, patients, security guards. And in several photos, circled in red marker, was a face I recognized. Mine. The police finished their search at 4:47 a.m. By then, the sun was still an hour from rising, and the hospital had that particular quality of deep night exhaustion, the point where time seems to stretch, and every minute feels like 5. They'd found no trace of Martin Reeves, but they'd bagged and tagged an impressive amount of evidence from rooms 317 and 319. The photos of me, those surveillance images with my face circled in red marker, went into an evidence envelope marked obsessive behavior, potential stalking. The detectives took digital copies of everything on the walls, swabbed surfaces for DNA, fingerprinted every object Martin might have touched. Detective Chen, a tired-looking woman in her early 40s with sharp eyes that missed nothing despite her obvious exhaustion, took my statement for what felt like the 100th time. She sat across from me in the break room, a cup of the hospital's terrible coffee going cold in front of her, her notebook filled with detailed shorthand notes. "Let me make sure I have this straight, Ms. Hayes," she said, flipping back through several pages. "You're absolutely certain you've never seen this man outside the hospital? Never noticed anyone following you home from work, waiting in the parking lot, showing up in places you frequent? No unusual encounters, no unwanted contact, no sense of being watched?" "I see hundreds of patients every single month," I told her, trying to keep my voice steady, despite the exhaustion and residual fear making my hands shake. Martin Reeves was only memorable because of how insistent he was about checking himself out. Most people who come in confused and dehydrated, they're grateful for the help, they want to stay until they're stable. He couldn't wait to leave. Kept asking about discharge paperwork before we'd even finished his IV fluids. But I never saw him again after he signed himself out, not until tonight, on those security cameras. "But he saw you." Detective Chen tapped her pen against a photo of me circled in red. "He was watching you specifically, following your movements, documenting your shifts. That level of focus, that kind of obsessive attention to detail, it doesn't just happen randomly." "I know." The words came out quieter than I intended. "Believe me, I know. But I have no idea why he fixated on me. No idea what I did or didn't do that made him target me specifically." Detective Chen studied me for a long moment, then closed her notebook with a sigh. "Well, here's what we know for certain. Martin Reeves didn't leave this hospital after he checked himself out AMA on November 11th. He went upstairs, and based on that list you found, he's been doing this for months, checking himself in as a patient, getting treated, then disappearing into the closed wings before anyone realizes he never actually left the building." "So what do we do now?" I asked. "How do we find him?" She stood up, gathered her materials. "We keep looking. We've issued a BOLO, be on the lookout, to every unit in the city. We've got his photo distributed to all hospital security teams in the region. We're monitoring his known addresses, his family contacts, anywhere he might surface." She paused at the door. "But Ms. Hayes? He's not gone. Men like this, they don't just give up and walk away. He's still close, still watching. So be careful. Vary your routine, park in different spots. Have security escort you to your car. And call me immediately if you see anything that seems off." After she left, I couldn't go back to my regular duties. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The adrenaline that had carried me through the confrontation with Martin was wearing off, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion mixed with a jittery anxiety that made it impossible to focus. Sam was in the ER bay getting his neck wound properly cleaned and dressed by another nurse. 18 stitches, the attending physician had said, commenting that Sam had been incredibly lucky the scalpel hadn't gone deeper. I sat alone in the break room with a cup of coffee I couldn't drink, staring at my phone, unable to shake the image of Martin's eyes reflecting the fluorescent light, that inhuman stillness of his posture. Patient 42,156. Cardiac arrest, cause unknown. October 1st. The words kept circling in my mind. I thought about Dr. Hendrix's notes, about how she documented the patient's claims of seeing someone wandering the third floor, about how she'd attributed his fears to a psychiatric break rather than reality. What if she'd been wrong? What if patient 42,156 had been telling the truth all along? I pulled up the hospital's security archives on my phone. Technically, I wasn't supposed to have access to this system. It was restricted to security personnel and administration only. But 6 years of night shifts means you learn things, you observe passwords being entered, you make friends with IT techs who owe you favors for bringing them coffee during long overnight maintenance windows. You figure out workarounds that nobody explicitly forbids because nobody thinks to check if nurses are accessing camera feeds. The footage from October 1st loaded slowly. I started with camera 3, which covered the north corridor, where patient 42,156's isolation room had been. 11:47 p.m. Empty corridor. Freshly mopped floors. 12:15 a.m. A nurse doing her rounds. She checked the isolation room door, made a note, moved on. 1:30 a.m. Nothing, just an empty hallway. Then at 1:47 a.m., something changed. The camera angle shifted, just slightly, like someone had bumped it. And in that shifted view, I could see farther down the corridor. There was someone standing in the hallway. I paused the video, zoomed in. The figure was partially in shadow, but I could make out enough. Male, average height, wearing scrubs. Standing perfectly still, outside room 314. Just watching the door, I let the video play. For 7 minutes, the figure didn't move, just stood there, waiting. At 1:54 a.m., the isolation room door opened. Patient 42,156 stepped into the hallway. Even from the grainy footage, I could see how agitated he was. He was gesturing, pointing down the hall, clearly upset. The figure in the shadows didn't move. Patient 42,156 started walking toward the figure, still gesturing, apparently shouting. When he got within 10 feet, the lights flickered, just for a second. And when they came back on, the figure was gone. But patient 42,156 was still there, staring at the spot. His posture changed. The agitation drained away, replaced by fear. He backed up slowly, then turned and ran toward the nurse's station. I switched to camera 1, which covered the nurse's station. Patient 42,156 appeared at 1:56 a.m., breathless, panicked. He was talking to the night nurse, pointing back toward his corridor. Then patient 42,156 grabbed her arm, pointed directly at the camera, at me, watching from 2 weeks in the future. No, not at me. At something behind the camera. The nurse turned to look. Her expression changed. Confusion, then recognition. She said something, and patient 42,156's face went white. He shook his head violently, backed away, and ran. Back toward his room. Back toward where he'd seen the figure. I switched cameras, following his path. He ran past his own room, toward the south stairwell. The stairwell camera caught him at 1:58 a.m., taking the stairs up, toward the 4th floor, which had been empty. Storage and offices all closed. The 4th floor cameras showed him emerging into another corridor. He was slower now, exhausted. He kept looking over his shoulder as if being followed, but the camera showed no one else. He tried several doors, all locked. Finally found one that opened. Room 427, a storage room. He slipped inside and closed the door. The timestamp read 2:03 a.m. I fast-forwarded, waited for him to come out. Minutes passed. 5, 10, 15. At 2:17 a.m., the night nurse appeared with a security guard. They went straight to room 427. Opened the door. The camera angle didn't show inside, but I could see their reactions. The nurse's hand went to her mouth. The guard immediately got on his radio. Patient 42,156 had been found unresponsive. He was pronounced dead at 2:43 a.m. Cause of death, cardiac arrest, cause unknown. But here's what made my skin crawl. I rewound to 2:03 a.m. when patient 42,156 entered room 427. Then I watched carefully. At 2:04 a.m., 1 minute after patient 42,156 entered, a shadow moved across the corridor outside. Just a flicker on the camera's edge. Something passing by the storage room door. I zoomed in, enhanced the image. It was the same figure from the third floor, same height, same posture, same scrubs. And he stopped outside room 427, just for a moment, long enough to reach out and touch the door handle. Then the lights flickered again, and he was gone. The door to room 427 had been locked from the inside. They'd had to use a master key to get in. There was no other exit. So how did patient 42,156 die of cardiac arrest in a locked room 1 minute after a mysterious figure touched the door from outside? My phone buzzed. Text from Sam. Security office. Need to show you something. Now. I found him in the security office, his neck bandaged, his face pale. He had 3 monitors pulled up showing different angles of the third floor. I've been going through the footage from the past week, he said, looking for any sign of Reeves. Watch this. The footage was from 6 nights ago, November 8th. Camera 4, the south stairwell entrance. The timestamp read 11:23 p.m. The stairwell door opened. Martin Reeves stepped through carrying a plastic bag. He moved with purpose, walked straight to room 317, and disappeared inside. So he's been coming here at least since last week, I said. Keep watching. The same footage, but now Sam fast-forwarded to 2:15 a.m. The door to room 317 opened. Martin Reeves emerged, but he looked different. His posture was wrong, too stiff, and he was carrying something, a bundle wrapped in bedsheets. He walked to the stairwell and disappeared. What was he carrying? I asked. I don't know, but watch this. Sam switched monitors. This is from the loading dock. Same night, 2:47 a.m. The loading dock camera showed Martin Reeves emerging from the service door, still carrying the bundled sheets. He walked to the dumpster area, lifted the lid of the medical waste container, and deposited the bundle inside. Medical waste, the stuff that gets incinerated. Sam, we need to... I already called it in, he said. Detective Chen is on her way. But Liv, there's more. He pulled up footage from 5 different nights over the past month. Each one showed the same pattern. Martin Reeves entering the 3rd floor late at night. Martin Reeves leaving in the early morning with wrapped bundles. Martin Reeves disposing of bundles in the medical waste. How many? I asked quietly. 7. 7 times in the past month that I can find. 7 bundles. 7 wrapped packages disposed of like medical waste. What was he doing up there? My voice sounded strange. What was in those bundles? Sam pulled up another video. This is from tonight, camera 2, room 317, right after I left. The footage showed room 317 from the hallway camera. Martin Reeves entered the frame, moving with that strange stiffness. He went into the room, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then he emerged, dragging something. Not something. Someone. A person. Unconscious or dead. Someone wearing a hospital gown being pulled by their arms across the corridor. Oh my God, I whispered. Sam, who is that? I don't know, but look at the timestamp. 1:52 a.m. Right around the time Sam and I were dealing with the initial incident, While we were focused on room 317, Martin had been in another room. "We need to search every room on that floor," I said. "Right now. If there's someone up there who needs help, the police already cleared the floor." "Did they check inside every room? Every closet, every bathroom, every storage space?" Sam's expression told me they hadn't. I was already moving. Sam grabbed his radio and followed. We took the stairs 2 at a time. The corridor was still lit. Evidence markers still dotted the floor. "Start at the south end," I said. "I'll take north. Check every room." We split up. I started with room 301, empty. Room 302, same thing. Room 303, this one still had a bed, and on that bed, arranged carefully, were medical supplies. 4 bags, syringes, bandages, antibiotics. Enough to treat serious injuries. "Sam," I called out, "room 303. You need to see this." He appeared, took in the scene, and immediately got on his radio. But I was already moving to the bathroom. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, shined my phone's flashlight inside. The bathroom was empty, but written on the mirror, in what I hoped was lipstick, were 3 words: "Patient 0 lives." Below it, an arrow pointing down to the drain in the center of the floor. I knelt down, shined my light into the drain. Something was blocking it. Something white, stained with dried blood. A hospital ID badge. I used gloves to extract it. The plastic was cracked. The photo faded. But I could still read the name. Dr. Patricia Hendricks, the attending physician who'd written the report on patient 42,156. The doctor who'd been there when he died. My hands were shaking as I pulled up the hospital directory. Status: on leave. Last shift: October 2nd, 2023, October 2nd. 1 day after patient 42,156 died. "Liv?" Sam was in the doorway. "What did you find?" I showed him the badge. "We need to search her office," I said. "Right now." Dr. Hendricks' office was on the 2nd floor. I used my badge to access the wing. Her office door was locked, but Sam had a master key. The office looked normal. Desk, computer, filing cabinets. But there was dust on everything. Weeks of dust. No one had been here since October 2nd. I moved to her desk. There was a notepad with scribbled notes, partially hidden under a medical journal. The notes were frantic, barely legible. Patient 42,156 was right. Someone is on the 3rd floor. Checked myself tonight. Found living space in room 319. Supplies missing from pharmacy match. What was there? How long has this been happening? Below that, in different ink. Checked security footage. Figure appears in multiple frames dating back to September. Always same location, always watching. Security says footage is corrupted, but I can see him. And finally at the bottom, underlined 3 times, he called me. Martin Reeves called my personal cell, said we needed to talk, said he could explain everything, meeting him tonight, 3rd floor, 11 p.m. Going to record everything. No date, but it didn't matter. I knew when it had been written. October 2nd. The day Dr. Hendricks went on leave. The day after, patient 42,156 died. "Sam," I said quietly, "I think Martin Reeves killed her. I think she went to meet him and she never came back. But we would have found a body." "Would we? You said it yourself. 7 bundles in the medical waste." The realization hit both of us. Dr. Hendricks hadn't gone on leave. She'd disappeared, and Martin Reeves had been disposing of evidence for weeks. I pulled out my phone to call Detective Chen, but before I could dial, it buzzed with an incoming text. Unknown number. The message was simple. You found my message in 303. Good. You're smarter than Dr. Hendricks was. She came alone. Don't make the same mistake. If you want to know what happened to her, come back to the 3rd floor, room 327. Come alone or you'll never find her. You have 30 minutes. I showed Sam the text message. His jaw clenched. You're not going up there alone. He said 30 minutes, Sam. If Dr. Hendricks is still alive, this guy has killed people. He attacked me with a scalpel just hours ago. I'm calling Chen. You'll watch on cameras, but I'm going. Sam looked like he wanted to physically restrain me, like he wanted to lock me in the break room until backup arrived and proper protocols could be followed. But after a long, tense moment where neither of us moved, he finally nodded grimly, his jaw tight with worry. Fine. But I'm calling every available security officer we have on duty. And if anything, and I mean anything, looks even slightly wrong on those monitors, I'm coming up there with every person I can find. You don't play hero, Liv. You get information and you get out. Understood? Understood. I dialed Detective Chen while we walked quickly back toward the security office, my legs feeling unsteady beneath me, adrenaline and exhaustion creating a strange cocktail in my system. She answered on the 2nd ring, her voice instantly alert despite the early hour. Detective Chen. Detective, it's Olivia Hayes from Riverside Memorial. Martin Reeves just contacted me directly. He says he has information about Dr. Hendricks' location, about what really happened to her. I could hear sudden movement on her end. Fabric rustling, the jingle of car keys being grabbed, a door slamming. Where and when? Don't tell me you're thinking of going. 3rd floor, room 327. He gave me 30 minutes from when he sent the text. I checked my watch. I've voted 24 minutes now. Absolutely not. Do not engage with this individual. I repeat, do not go near that room. We're mobilizing a tactical response team now. ETA 15 minutes, maybe less, if traffic cooperates. He says we'll never find Dr. Hendricks if I don't come alone. Detective, if she's still alive somewhere in this building, if she's been held captive for 6 weeks, Ms. Hayes, listen to me very carefully. This man is extremely dangerous. He's a murder suspect. He's demonstrated violent behavior. You're not trained for hostage negotiations or dealing with potentially violent psychiatric patients. You wait for us. I'm going. The words came out firmer than I felt. But security will be monitoring every second on camera. You'll be here before he could do anything. I won't engage any more than necessary to get information about Dr. Hendricks' location. I hung up before she could turn it into a direct order, before she could make it official enough that I'd be actively disobeying law enforcement. My hands were trembling as I put the phone in my pocket. 26 minutes left. The walk to the 3rd floor felt surreal. Every shadow darker, every sound amplified. I kept my phone recording, earbuds in to hear Sam. I've got you on camera. His voice crackled. Be careful. Room 327 was at the far end. The door was closed, light beneath it. The handle was warm when I touched it. Inside, the room looked functional. Clean sheets, ready equipment, antiseptic smell. And sitting in the visitor's chair was Martin Reeves. In person, he looked ordinary. Tired, middle-aged, forgettable. Nurse Hayes, he said softly, thank you for coming. If you just listen, you'll understand. Where is Dr. Hendricks? Safe. For now. He gestured to a chair. We don't have much time. I stayed standing, door open. I'm recording. Security's watching. Police are coming. I'm not planning violence. I'm trying to prevent it. He leaned forward. What do you know about patient 42,156? Died 6 weeks ago, cardiac arrest. Saw you on the 3rd floor that night. Marcus Webb, medical equipment salesman. Martin's voice hardened. He was drugging patients, testing experimental compounds on people who couldn't fight back. That's not in his file, because he was careful. Until September. Until he tried it on me. The room felt colder. What happened? Kidney infection, September admission. Webb replaced my IV medication with something experimental. I woke up during the substitution, confronted him. He smiled, said nobody would believe me. Martin stood slowly. He was right. I told everyone. They ran tests, found nothing, said I was confused from fever. So you decided to watch him? I documented everything. Stayed in closed wings where nobody looks. Found 7 patients over 2 months showing signs of unauthorized medications, unexplained reactions, and Webb was always nearby. The bundles in the medical waste, evidence, IV bags, syringes, Webb's notes from his car, everything proving what he did. But he died before you could expose him. Martin's expression showed grief. He saw me following him, confronted me. I tried to explain I had proof that he needed to stop, but he panicked, ran. The drugs he'd been testing, fatal side effects. Massive cardiac event in that storage room. I tried CPR for 15 minutes. Too late. Dr. Hendricks found out. She reviewed everything, came to me. He pulled out a USB drive. It's all here. Names, dates, logs, Webb's notes, security footage. Everything. Then why hide? Why not go to police? Because Webb wasn't working alone. Martin's voice dropped. Dr. Hendricks realized it. The medications came from inside the hospital. Someone in administration was supplying them, protecting him. My stomach dropped. Who? That's what she was trying to figure out. She went to meet someone she trusted 6 weeks ago. Never came back. Where is she? Is she alive? I don't know. His voice cracked. I've been searching every night. That's why I'm still here. Someone took her, someone who knows what she discovered. Liv, Sam's voice, urgent. Chen's in the building, and someone else just entered the 3rd floor, north stairwell. Martin, did you tell anyone else? The lights went out. Complete darkness. Emergency lights dead. Liv, get out, Sam shouted. Power's cut, cameras down. Martin grabbed my arm. Don't use light, they're here. Footsteps in the corridor. Multiple sets. Coordinated, military precision. Martin pulled me into the bathroom. In here. Don't make a sound. We squeezed into the small space. Through the crack in the door, I watched the handle turn. Clear, a male voice said. Target's not in visual. Check the bathroom. Martin pressed the USB drive into my hand. If something happens, get this to the FBI, not local police. Promise me. I nodded. The bathroom door flew open. Flashlight beams blinded me. I threw up my hands. Olivia Hayes? Step out slowly. The man holding the flashlight wore hospital security uniform, but wrong badge, wrong equipment. Behind him, 2 more men in similar uniforms. And behind them, stepping into the doorway, was someone I recognized. Administrator Richard Klein, VP of Operations. The man who'd given me my service award. Ms. Hayes, Klein said, disappointed. You should have stayed in the ER. This doesn't concern you. Where's Dr. Hendricks? Dr. Hendricks suffered a mental breakdown. She's receiving treatment at a private facility. Bullshit. Martin stepped forward. She found out about Webb. Found out you were supplying him with experimental drugs, using this hospital as a testing ground. Klein's expression didn't change. Mr. Reeves, trespassing, assault, harassment. You've caused quite a bit of trouble. I have evidence. Everything Webb did, every authorization code tracing back to your office, all documented. Evidence that will never see the light of day. Klein nodded to his guards. Take them to sub-level B, quietly. The guards moved forward. I clutched the USB drive, then, Riverside Memorial Security, freeze! Sam's voice, loud and authoritative. He burst through with 3 real security officers. Behind them, Detective Chen and 2 uniformed police, weapons drawn. Richard Klein, Chen said, her voice hard. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, unlawful imprisonment, and about 15 other charges. The next 90 minutes were controlled chaos. More police arrived. FBI was contacted. Klein's fake security team was arrested. Private contractors hired through a shell company. The sub-level search took 40 minutes. When they found Dr. Hendricks in a maintenance room behind the old boiler system, she was barely conscious. 6 weeks of captivity, kept sedated with the same compounds Webb had been using. But she was alive. The USB drive contained everything. 3 years of documentation. 57 patients used as test subjects. Webb's lab notes. Emails between Webb and Klein discussing distribution channels and acceptable loss ratios. Martin was cleared of all charges. Webb's death ruled natural causes from self-administered drugs. The hospital offered Martin a settlement. He donated it all to patient advocacy. Dr. Hendricks spent 2 months recovering. She resigned, moved away. Last I heard, she was teaching at a small college. Sam received a commendation and promotion. He still works nights sometimes. Says day shift feels wrong. And me? I still work night shift at Riverside Memorial. New administration, new protocols, new cameras, new oversight. The 3rd floor reopened 6 months later. Bright paint, modern equipment. Patients fill those rooms now, getting proper care. But I still pause when I walk past room 327. Because I learned something I can't unlearn. The place you trust most can hide something monstrous. And sometimes the person everyone dismisses as paranoid is the only one brave enough to see the truth. Martin Reeves lived as a ghost in our hospital. But he wasn't haunting us. He was trying to save us. That's what I think about during quiet hours, when lights flicker and doors open for no one, when shadows move in ways they shouldn't. Sometimes the scariest things in hospitals aren't the patients. Sometimes they're the people wearing white coats, the ones with credentials and authority, the ones we're taught to trust without question. Those are the ones you have to watch.